Hello and good morning. Welcome back to the Inky channel with me, Kieron Seamons. And we are going through this kind of memories at the moment, and we're going through some of the old classic TV shows that I have worked on in my past. And today's kind of request is Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch, the Disney show. So today we're going to do a modern version of Lilo and Stitch. So if you're ready for a nice inky drawing and a few chatty memories, let's do it. Okay, so welcome back. And today we are talking about the fantastic story of Lilo and Stitch. A fantastic character, and absolutely, I think it was at the point it was kind of like a lifesaver for Disney. It was one of those type of shows that came in, and it just was a real pickup. I know that at times, although Disney have been one of the greats of animation and storytelling, I think there was a time when it kind of slumped a little bit. I'm just doing a rough. It kind of, with some of the animation things, I don't want to get too rough with it because people always say, it doesn't look like him. So I think when Lilo and Stitch came along, it was a real pickup. It was a great story. It was a great idea, and one of those shows that just exploded for them. I think it was just it really was an incredible show. I loved it. I loved all the aliens. I loved all the whatever's about the. I loved it. I really did. I really thought it was an incredibly brilliant show, and it did go on for a very long time. It was a very, very popular show. Very, very popular. Let's get a nice hand in there somewhere. And he had these lovely bandy legs too. And of course, Stitch was the superstar of the show. He was such a great, really great character. And when he used to play his little ukulele and do the Elvis impersonation stuff, was a star. You know, it was an absolute star. So, how did we get to do Lilo and Stitch? Well, at the time, my company, Sandman Animation Studio, all the way back in the mid 1990s to the beginning of the 2000s, and we had actually begun to get a very good name for working on animation projects. We'd done a lot of we'd done some of the Canadian shows, and we'd done a lot of German shows. We'd worked with TV Loonland and some of the other German companies, and we'd done things that worked out very well for us. And we had a very good name for doing the show on time and doing it to a very good quality. So when the chance to work on a Disney project came along, it was definitely snapped up. We went through talks with them, and we got the project. Now you have to remember that, you know, for a lot of animation studios, or for even for the creative side of the arts of the cartoon industry, if you have the name Disney on your CV, it is a very, very, very good advertisement for your company. And to have the name of your company and the name of Disney in the same sentence is always a good thing. So it was a beautiful chance for us, and of course, if you're working for a company like Disney, you're going to obviously have a very high quality that is required. So you need to get some of the best animators in, which is also good. It's a good thing for your company also, because what it does is it gets you to a point where you can afford to pay some of the good animators to come and work for you, and it gives you a good chance then to keep them. And with some of the smaller projects, they don't pay enough to get some of the good guys in. You'll kind of go, well, I've got a new cartoon show. Oh, great, how much are you paying? Always the first question. Always. Doesn't matter how good they are. First question is always, how much are you paying? And we would sometimes get some very, very good, fun, interesting shows come in, but if you don't have the money to pay them, you've got no chance. So once the Disney project come in, let me just dive across and grab a brush there to fill in the eyes. Once you get a show like a Disney show, then it's easier to kind of pull some of the big boys in, or the big girls. There are some very good animators that were girls. Not so many, obviously, in the time that we were there. Kind of girls didn't really have some of the bigger paid jobs. They were mostly mums and stuff like that. But we had a couple of animating girls that used to come in, and they were incredible. They were very, very, very good. And I remember one that used to come in with her very pompous husband, and she was much better than he was. And it used to really get on his nerves. It used to, they would come in together, and you'd kind of say, okay, well, your retakes, your fixes, your retakes are, you 15%, you 45%. And it was always 45% for the husband, and he hated it. But, so it was a fantastic time for the company to be working on something like Lilo and Stitch. And we worked on the TV series, obviously, and we worked on a series where they were where they had come to China, and I think there was some kind of deal with the Chinese government, or the kind of the higher bods of the Chinese government were kind of like trying to get the Disney shows. And obviously Disney were trying to get the shows in China, and so the kind of the pairing up kind of worked out very well for them. Slightly gone too far there with that, but let's tuck it in there. So it worked out very good for both sides, and the chosen company was mine, and it was a fantastic chance. It really was. It was a beautiful experience, and obviously, as an artist, it's always good to have something in your portfolio that people will go, oh, I know that one. Like this week I've been drawing Treasure and other such, and they're the type of shows you say, I worked on Treasure, and then people say, never heard of it. Or what about, never heard of it. What about, never heard of it. Lilo and Stitch. Oh, you did Lilo and Stitch. Yeah. So it's always nice to have that kind of tag for your company. and always a a highlight. And Dennis and Menace was one of them. The Moomins was one of them. Lilo and Stitch was one of them. Cramp Twins, as I did yesterday, was the Cramp Twins, was one of them. In fact, the Cramp Twins went on to have quite a kind of cult following. Whereas the Disney shows, all Disney shows have got a following, you know. They all have got that kind of, it's a Disney show, so there's so much merchandise and one of the nice things about working on animation shows was that you do get merchandise. But we didn't get much on we didn't get much on Lilo and Stitch, I have to say. We did not get much at all on Lilo and Stitch. We did on the Moomins. We got lots of goodies on the Moomins. They were very gracious with their gifts of the Moomins, which was very, very, very lovely. I still have some key rings and pendants and such for the Moomins, which was lovely. I mean, it's always a pleasure. And obviously we are doing a kind of the idea was to do a 2025, what would these characters look like now in 2025. So I'm trying to make him look a little bit older, since that would have been, what would that have been, 2005, 4, something like that. I'm not very good with dates, as you can, as you have seen. I'm terrible with my dates. I know that sometimes BMO will come up and say, no, that was actually 1970, you know, like, oh, okay. So yeah, I believe it was about 2000. And they flew over, as all the good companies do, they flew over to visit us. And they loved the studio, which was a big, beautiful big yellow studio at the time. We had all the walls were painted yellow, and we had lots of glass in there, so at the time it was an extremely modern looking studio. I mean, you know, when I first went out to China and went to studios, they were very much kind of like very kind of what's a nice word? Shabby. They were very kind of very, very, very poorly set up. Very old and very worn out looking. And so when Sandman came along, we were kind of like the modern ones. We were like the state-of-the-art studio, you know. It was like, we looked fantastic compared to a lot of our competitors at the time, which was beautiful. It was very, very, very exciting to be in that stage. And a lot of the companies did not like us, and they saw us as a great threat, which is always a compliment if you're in that area. And it was a beautiful compliment from many of the studios to see some of these studios that have been there for many years, and for us to come along and be a threat was a compliment indeed. Now, very rarely I will do this, but I know that the Disney would. Oh, it's dried up. Don't use that one. That one. Right. As part of the Disney retakes, the fixes, as they would come back and say, no. I have to do a little fix there just to fit with their requests. Character requests were a very big part, and that is the fact that he has a chunk missing on his ear. For all you Lilo and Stitch fans will know that. And so the Disney bunch came out to visit us in Suzhou, China. We were not in Shanghai at the time, we were in Suzhou. And we went on to make other companies. We went on to make a company in Guangzhou, so we had a couple of companies at one point. And we had another studio up north in a very Chengdu. We had a company in Chengdu as well, which was a very small addition, but there were some of the best animators. Best animators came from Chengdu. And that is up where the pandas are also, which was a beautiful addition. So we got a chance to go and see the pandas, which became a great part of my life. If you followed my artwork, you will see that my panda drawings and my panda comic. But the Chengdu people, in fact, there was a lot of lady animators in Chengdu that were fantastic. There was one thing about the Chinese animators, is they were exceptionally good. If you got a couple of good ones, they could definitely do the work of quite a few people. So we really were on the hunt for constantly looking for very good animators. They basically brought less trouble. They often charged more. Understandable, right? Very, very understandable. Of course, if you're that good and you're in demand. And in fact, sometimes I would treat them very nicely, you know. And when they would come, I would always invite them in for a talk. And I'd always get to a point of being very friendly at the beginning, and then say, "Oh, I hear you're going to be working on Mr. Wong's show next. I've got a better one coming, and I know that Mr. Wong pays blah 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 blah, and we are going to pay blah." So I would really like for you to come and work for me on that project. And in most cases it worked. In fact, it got to a point where some of the very good animators went on to set up their own studios at one point, which was a little bit frustrating. But I know that there was a guy called Sam. He went and set up his own studio. Of course, he had a Chinese name. And they would set up their own little kind of companies to then come and take work from us, which was very understandable. And you know, but it became a little bit more complicated, because then they were working on a scale of money, so that they would basically be going around and putting out their rates for each show and saying, well, that show we're going to charge that, and if you want us to work on it, you have to pay that. And it all became very, very, very money orientated, which was very, very complicated, but very understandable. Everybody did. Down on that. He had these lovely little bendy legs down, which was always quite beautiful. Yeah. So it was a very, very, very beautiful time of working with some of the best animators in Shanghai, the best animators in China, full stop. We had people come up from Guangzhou, Nanjing. It was a fantastic period of time. And he had these little knobbly feet, which were very, very fun. He had these feet that were almost like flat, like a fat pancake almost. And he had these little, almost like a little kind of lump. And then he had these kind of toes that were built onto this kind of pancake. So I'm very proud to have been a part of another Disney show. I've got a few Disney shows in my collection at the moment. Roger Rabbit being another one, Lilo and Stitch, and such. So, and also one of the great things about having my company was it got me to work on a lot of feature films, a lot of in total I think we did like 15 full length feature films, animated feature films, over the period of time, which is another fantastic achievement by the company. And I think at the time we were really doing well, until I got sick, and then things became difficult to control and difficult to maintain, really. But as we were very, very, very popular at the time, we worked on fantastic shows. Some real memorable shows. Obviously this week I've been running through a few of them. The Cramp twins being yesterday, and Treasure, and Dennis and Menace, the Moomins. Horrid Henry was another. Maybe I'll do a Horrid Henry, because that was another one that went on to be a very popular show. And we did all of the Horrid Henry. We did every single episode of it, which was a real testament to our quality, to be honest, at the time. At that point, studios were starting to get very kind of jumpy. They would work with you for one show and then they'd disappear and work for somebody else, and it was like, and it all became a money war more than a quality war, which was a shame. Part of the reason that it was good to get out, that everything was becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, to the point that they would basically turn up and saying, we are such and such, and we will pay you 2 pence. And I was like, how do you pay all these talented, amazing animators that you want? So that is a little trip down memory lane of the beautiful and the incredibly popular Lilo and Stitch. And a beautiful period of time. I do remember the Disney visit, and I remember them going for long walks around our lake. Our lake became very popular, actually, with visitors. And it was a very successful show, very successful project. I can't remember how many episodes we did. I think it was 104, something like that. 104 episodes of the Lilo and Stitch franchise. And it was a pleasure. It was an absolute pleasure, as it always is working with Disney. They have such a name and such a history. It is always a delight. And for me, it was always also, one of my childhood dreams. You know, I watched every single movie that Disney ever made. You know, I was obsessed with them. So when this kind of opportunity came, it was very well accepted, very happily accepted, and still remains a wonderful memory. So there's just a little kind of Lilo and Stitch of 2025. And a beautiful memory and a beautiful period of time. Wonderful. So thank you very much for being here today. Thank you very much for watching my updated version of Lilo and Stitch in 2025, and a few of the memories of Lilo and Stitch coming to Shanghai in whatever year it was. Thank you very much for coming. I hope you did a drawing today. If you did do a drawing, I'd love to see it. You know, it's a great chance to just sit down and watch these kind of videos and you to draw one of your favorite cartoons at the same time. If you haven't subscribed, I would love you to come and subscribe and follow some of the journeys in my animation and art and books adventures. And I will see you again tomorrow for something new, something different, something special, something inky, of course. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.